Hey guys, Tom here. Hey, I just want to do a quick follow-up video here on the CBs are like illegal ham radio video I did the other day. I got some comments on this, and I got it from both sides, and the ham guys weighed in on it too, and then the proud CB using types weighed in on it as well, and a lot of guys said it was the skip that we're experiencing right now with the solar cycle. And then there were a lot of guys also saying, yeah, we use a lot of wattage. And somebody apparently had said his friend has 50,000 watts. He has batteries in the bed of his truck. And I just thought, Jesus, that's a fire waiting to happen. But, and a lot of guys say they've been using it for years. A lot of guys say that linear amplifiers have been around since the 70s or 60s. And I believe that, and I just think the amps are far more prevalent now with the internet being there and being able to order it so quickly and have one. I don't know that in the 70s, you know, growing up then as a kid, stuff was as readily available as it is now. So I just have to believe that amps are used far more now with the CB radios than they were, and then modifying 10-meter radios that are already 100 watts. I think there's some of that going on. But and a lot of people said, well, it's the skip. It's a skip signal. I've talked, you know, the guys are saying, I've talked to Australia on 5 watts, and I've talked to Europe on 5 watts and 10 watts. But what I didn't hear was, did they do this all the time with regularity on 5 watts? With the signal being so loud, it sounds like the guy's sitting next to you. They didn't specify in anything like that. I believe that it's both the skip and the wattage being used. I think it's both. In my experience, here's my experience with HF. I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on HF radio when I was in the Marine Corps, and the job I had to have a headset on. And there's about 6 of us in a box, and we'd marry up airplanes and ground troops. And so you had VHF and UHF radios in there, and you had HF. And when I was a new guy, we'd switch positions, but I'd sit that HF net for I don't know how many hundreds of hours, and it's just horrible. But when it would get up and running, I would call. We'd a lot of times go out to the California desert. Yeah, it's mainly where I used it. Well, I used it some in Okinawa too, but I would call, once it's up and running, I would call Clark Air Base in the Philippines for a radio check, make sure my radio was working right. And right away, they'd always reply right back to me, and so I knew it was working. And so when we were doing it, I could do that day or night, any time of the year, and I'd always get them. And I think we'd sit in this box and do that and do our job, and I think we were probably 400 watts on the HF, I think. Don't quote me. And then Humvee mounted could be 150, and then it might have been as much as 400 watts, I'm not sure. But and I could get them on that as well, on the beach of California, in the desert of California, or whatever. It wasn't hard to reach Clark Air Base in the Philippines with HF. And so we did that forever. So later on, like I said, in the 90s, so I got a CB radio in, I don't know, 94, 95, something like that. You're only dealing with 4 watts, at least that's all I had. And when I'd hear the skip signal, and so I understand the skip, I understand the F layers, the F1 and the F2 layers, and the difference between them at night. And that's why AM radio has to turn their power down a lot of times, because their signal will go farther and interfere. And so I get it. I knew that. So back to the 95, I would hear guys once in a while, like I heard a guy from West Virginia, but it was pretty weak. It was a pretty weak signal. And then another time I heard a guy from Georgia, but it was pretty weak signal. So if they were using amps, I don't know. But the guy that, so the guy I was talking about in my first video here the other day, from Illinois, I've heard him since I bought this new CB. It's clear as day. And I mean, loud, like he's sitting next to me. And so I believed that, you know, this was probably wattage and the skip signal, because he's on there at will. He's on there all the time, and he doesn't get any quieter at different times of the day. So that was all that my point was, and a lot of you commented both wattage and both on the skip that we're experiencing with the solar cycle. And so I wanted to just kind of weigh in here on what I was thinking a little bit better, because I don't think I clarified what I was thinking as well, or gave you any history as to what I knew about radios in my first video that I did here the other day. And you know, there were some rude comments, and but there's a lot of good comments too. A lot of the ham radio guys, for the most part, they like to talk about all the theory and their experience with it, and so those were good comments. So anyway, that was all I wanted to say as an update to that video, and a lot of people commented and weighed in on it. So anyway, one guy called me a snitch. He says, "This guy's a snitch." No, I'm not a snitch. I'm not running to the FCC and gonna tell on anybody. Oh, and then on issue number 2, real quick, who is the guy that says audio over and over again? And he says it in this long, drawn out tone. He was there 30 years ago doing that stuff. And I thought maybe he was a guy at home. You know, I didn't know where he was coming from. And then I hear it over here. It's the same guy 30 years later still doing that. He doesn't say much of anything else. He just says that, hello, and audio, I think. And then another commenter in the comments commented about that guy. So is he heard nationwide? Is he what? Who knows anything about him? Please weigh in on the comments. I'd like to hear about that. So anyway, that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching.